Is your Denver home worth more or less than it was just a few months ago? Well, it's the beginning of September, and you know what that means. August numbers are out, and we're going to do what we do every single month. We're going to dig into what's going on in the Denver market so you know what's going on with your biggest asset, your biggest investment, your home. Election season. Things are getting a little nutty out there. Election years tend to be slower than a normal year. We see this trend every single 4 years. We can set our watch to it. But what's going on this year? Because with interest rates just taking a little bit of a dip, is that balancing things out more? Are people getting freaked out? And then you have news articles like these Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes in Aurora. You got a lot of fear going on. What's the truth behind this stuff? But we're going to just look at the numbers, right? That's what guides me on everything, is purely what the numbers are doing. And if you're new here, welcome. My name's Alex Saldana. I've been a local Denver agent since 2010, and I really try to let the numbers guide my decision-making process, whether that's buying for myself and my family. We do flip a lot of houses as well, so we tend to look at things from a numbers perspective. But if you have any questions, just feel free. Shoot me a text message, give me a phone call. I'm happy to chat with you. Or if you want to sign up for my email list, you can just scan this QR code. You can check your home's property value with a link in the description below. All different sorts of ways that you can reach out to me. Now, let's get on to the numbers here. So starting with what drives our market, which is going to be supply and demand, simple economics 101 type of stuff. What we're looking at, first of all, is all property types. Then we're going to go kind of dig into single families versus condos versus townhomes. But starting with all properties overall, new listings were about flat month over month. Is that normal? Is that not? We're looking at 3 years of data here, okay? And it looks like May was about our peak last year of inventory, June the year before, July the year before. So we're actually down in new listings overall, which is really interesting. We're down quite a bit from what the seasonal trend normally is. You know, last year in comparison, in August, we had 7,600 new listings. This year, we've got 8,100. So a little bit more than last year, but not as much as the years prior. So a little bit of a dip in new listings, which is controlling what prices are doing. Now, active listings, this is purely your supply and demand, right? How many listings are staying live on the MLS and what's the inventory look like? And it actually dipped this last month down to 18,000 from 18,800. And we can see last year, our peak was actually September for active listings. So it'll be interesting to see if September takes up a notch, we get more houses on the market, or if we continue the downward trend, which cyclically is what happens towards the winter. There's less active inventory on the market. Now, when we zoom this out, we can see our active inventory levels are still at pretty much a peak point for the last decade. The last time we had this much inventory was back in 2013. Okay, so it's been 11 years since we've had this much inventory on the market. Now, if you have been looking, you do know that the quality of inventory out there is not very good. It's just kind of how it is, and the good houses that are out there are still going rather quickly. All right, how many properties are actually going under contract? We're looking at pending listings, and we can see we saw an uptick from 5,700 in July up to 6,100 in August. Is that normal? Well, not really. Last year, we can see we peaked in April and we just took a downward plunge all the way into December. The year before, May was the peak and we kind of took a downward plunge, but then we did poke up in August again. July is cyclically and historically a really tough month to be a seller. It's just people go on vacation. Things are kind of dead around town. It feels kind of like a ghost town. And then August hits and activity picks up a little bit more. And then with interest rates that dropped about half of a point down to about 6%, there were a number of buyers who did get off the fence just with that interest rate drop. And that kind of helped our activity. Okay. So let's get on to closed listings. This is what all the articles are about. This is what's kind of shaking everything up, is how down we are in closed properties. So we did drop in August down to 5,700, but we did see pending sales going up. So I would think in September, we see a little bit of a spike on closed sales, right? On closed properties. But again, this is kind of the trend as we zoom out this map. Like we peak out in about closings in July, May. And so we always peak out in early summer, and then we kind of drop from there every single year for the amount of properties that are closed. It's just kind of what happens. Days in MLS. All right. So now we're starting to get up to territory where conversations with sellers are not like what they used to be. Hey, we're going to go on the market. If we're priced halfway decently, we're going to sell within a week or two. Well, the average days on MLS right now is 39, and that's for all sub property types. Condos, I believe it's even much, much higher than that. And single families, we'll take a look at all that in a second here on the breakdown. But 39 days on market. It doesn't sound like it's that long, but when you go on the market, 2 weeks feels like an eternity. I'll just tell you that right now. So have your expectations in check. If you're thinking of going on the market, it's likely going to take 4 to 6 weeks to get under contract. The better priced you are, the better property you have. Yes, those are going on the first weekend. And in fact, over the last couple of weeks, I've been helping a couple of buyers right now. And we've been competing against multiple offers. In fact, all 3 or 4 properties we put offers out on had other offers on them. We did win a couple of them. We did lose a couple of them. And that's just how it goes. You never know what you're going to compete against or how much over. Different areas have different activity going right now. There's a lot of micro markets around Denver that it's just kind of unpredictable right now and what's going on. So if you are a buyer, the advice still is, if you like something, move on it. Don't drag your feet. Okay? Because it can very likely go on you without you knowing. All right. Month supply of inventory, the real metric on supply and demand. We're down to 3.4. We're down from 3.6 months of inventory. So what this means, once again, is if all inventory were to stop, no more new inventory would come on the market, it would take us approximately 3.4 months to sell out of everything. And generally, this number increases until the end of the year, but we dropped a little bit. Interest rates dropped just a little bit. There's still not a lot of sellers out there. And, because of the activity picked up a little bit, we dropped an inventory just a touch, which is not a bad thing. And then we can get on to showings and what the activity is going to look like and what you can expect if you were to go on the market. And what we can see is it takes about 9 showings to go under contract in the month of August. And then on average, you're getting 4.8 showings per month. Okay. So almost 5 showings per month, adding up with the average days on market, which is, 6 weeks or so. So that's what I would expect if you were going on the market. One more stat, which is the important stat, right? What's your value actually doing? Well, we're on the downward trend. It looks like June was our peak at 585,000. Is that the same for single family townhomes? I'll show you in a second here. We dropped down to 576 in July, and now we're down to 570 in August. So we're down, 15,000, so a few percentage points down from our peak so far in June of this year. Pretty cyclical. I would expect the rest of the year for that number to keep declining. Now for the breakdown. Single family properties and their closed price dropped down to 617 from 630. So most of the drop was affected by single family homes this time of year. Not too uncommon. We can see last year we were about flat. Year before, which is a little weird, in 2022, we were just on a steady downtrend all year. But this is generally when we see prices start to turn a bit as we get into fall and closer to winter. Okay. New listings for single families dropped just a tiny bit, just about flat, 6,150 to 6,100. Active listings also dropped from 13,800 down to 13,300. Pending ticked up quite a bit from 4,400 up to 4,700. Closed listings dropped. So 4,600 down to 4,400. Days in MLS spiked up big time, went from 31 days up to 39 days. So another week plus on the market for single family homes. Month supply dropped from 3.5 to 3.3 months. And then shows to pending went up to 10. Shows per listing was 5.3. That was for single family. Moral of the story is we're on the downtrend, right? Going to condos now. Condos, if you've seen some of my latest videos, we have a lot of condo inventory right now, particularly in downtown Denver. So if you're a buyer, downtown Denver, there are some pretty stellar opportunities right now where you can kind of steal some properties. Not quite, but there's a lot of properties on the market for 6+ months that are getting a little motivated, we should say. So closed price condos went from 366 down to 350, $16,000 off of 36. I mean, that's what, 5% roughly in 1 month. What's going to happen over the next couple of months? I mean, this is our trend. This line is a little bit skewed, but we can see June was the peak here in 2018 at 265, dropped all the way down to 255. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a solid 6-ish%. I would expect to see this number continuing to drop. We might get down to the 320s, right? Low 330s or something over the next couple of months. Now, these are median numbers. So, you got to take them with a grain of salt. Not every property is the same. You're priced right. You got a good property. You're still going to get a good price. Okay. New listings to come on ticked up a little bit. So we're single family. We declined in new listings. In condos, we ticked up a little bit. So that should probably make months of inventory even higher. Active listings did drop though. Okay. So more stuff went under contract. 3,000 down to 2,800. But again, let's zoom this out. Wow. Look at that spike, right? If this was a stock, they'd be, taking a breakout here as of the last couple of months. And then we're going to expect to continue to see this number to go up, up, up and away as far as the amount of active inventory. Wow, we haven't had this much active inventory. So we had 2,900 units in June since 2011. We haven't had this much active inventory in condos since 2011. Holy cow. Pending did tick up. So we went from 680 up to 720. Closed about flat, 690 to 682. Days in MLS went up to 41 from 38, so not too much increase there. Month supply did drop from 4.8 down to 4.5. So again, anything over 4 months of inventory, it's about a balanced market. So you have the chance to negotiate here. And then showings to pending was 7, and the amount of showings per listing was 3.3. That is low. That is not a lot of showings. If you had a condo on the market and you were getting 3 showings a month, you probably wouldn't feel so good. So set the right expectation. It's not a time to just drop your pants on price immediately. If you have a condo, it's going to take some patience. Okay. Townhouses. Closed price dropped a little bit by 3,000. Not a huge deal. New listings, we had a big old spike up because they retargeted how they kind of categorize some of the properties in the MLS. So we didn't go up by 600% in new listings over the last few months. So it's going to take a while for this data to play out so it doesn't look skewed. We were basically flat month over month, 700 new condos new townhouses coming to the market from July to August. The amount of active listings dropped just a little bit, 1,500 down to 1,450. Pending kept on the trend, ticked up a little bit just by 25 more units. Closed listings kind of stayed flat. Days in MLS did spike up just like everything else, up to 36 days on the market. And then months supply of inventory, that dropped healthy. Went from 4.7 down to 4.1 months of inventory. Showings on townhouses, 8 showings until going under contract, and then approximately 4.1 showings per month. So there is your shakedown. Single family to condos to townhomes. So what's the moral of the story here, and what are we looking at over the next couple of months? Well, it's election season. Things get a little bit goofy. There's a lot of crazy headlines out there. Like I said, this whole Aurora Venezuelan gang thing. You have, people on one side saying one thing, and you have people on the other side saying another thing. There's rumors of Hell's Angels coming into town. Like, it's just getting a little bizarre out there. And I was expecting bizarre in election year. I was not expecting this. Here's what I think is going to happen. Is over the next few months, I think we see prices continue to get depressed a little bit, which is normal around this time of year. I think we see, drops in prices of 10 to 15% year over year, where a normal year is 7 to, 10% ish. So I think we see a little bit more, but it's an election year. So again, super duper common. There's just not a lot of houses coming on the market. Okay. With the handful of buyers that I'm working with right now, properties that we're looking at, I would say 4 out of 5 are kind of grandma's house, right? So if you don't have the ways and means to dump a couple 100,000 into a property to update it, the stuff that's homeowner updated, not the flips out there, but the homeowner updated stuff, which is nice, is still selling rapidly. We've been competing against multiple offers on those properties where other stuff is still sitting. So there's a premium being placed on the nice, well taken care of properties, and everything else people don't want to mess with, honestly. With paying what you're paying on interest rates, you're being a little bit pickier as a buyer, which is fine. This is, you're spending 500 to $1 million on a home. Like, you're allowed to be picky. And that's making for some frustrated sellers. And on the sell side, people know that there's not much inventory out there, so they're digging their heels in on price and concessions and things like that. So it's making this, transaction with some friction there. Now, something that you don't see much of, right, because you don't really have access to this, and even on our end, the information isn't that readily available, but on the MLS, something that I watch daily is just this kind of market watch box here in the middle, which shows me what is coming back on the market. So we had 1,150 new listings in the last, I think, 7 days is the time frame. 300 came back on the market. I mean, that's what, 25% of all new listings coming out of the market are going under contract and coming back on the market. Lots of buyers are flaking out right now. Financing issues, inspection issues, friction in the deals equals more contracts falling apart. It happens. Price decreases. 1,700 properties had a price decrease. 10% of properties have had a price drop in the last week that are on the MLS. Not a common thing to see. I am here to keep you updated on what the Denver market is doing. So again, if you got any questions, feel free, give me a call, shoot me a text message. I'd be happy to chat with you. And likewise, if you want to keep up to date on what's going on in the Denver market, just go ahead and scan this QR code and I'll send you my weekly email with stats and what you can do and how to take action if you are in the market to sell or to buy in Denver. And if you did miss my latest video that blew up on me unexpectedly, here it is. It's about the Venezuelan gangs and what's going on in Aurora and the information that I have available to me that I will be following up with you in a couple of days to keep breaking this news and story about what's going on.